Rightio. This is actually a good place to park up for the night because you're hiding in plain sight. In other words, your surfery types come and park up here. Nobody takes any notice. I just made an audio that's... I'm sounding far too sincere now. I just made an audio about the environment, or environmentalism, the people. Let's just keep it to the people. The people that gradually took over the public space. I'm going to put it into a audio, and I actually forgot my point, which is so these two words, therapy and change. It's so much part of it, but to keep to the point, I'm only interested, although I'm not interested anymore, in a region that I inhabited for nearly 30 years, but I was less able to leave that region as of 20 years ago. But that's important. Moving around has a great environmental cost. So I have no interest in this whole region. None. I could be anywhere. And I've got no comment on what's going into here. None. Zero. And it doesn't you no good sitting and watching the sea. In fact, it's great to park here because I probably snore. It's the only thing I slightly worry about if somebody comes by in the night. Not that it matters. Here, the noise of the sea and the wind disguises your snoring. I shouldn't imagine it can be heard. Anyway, to the point. If you took, with probably one exception, fuel consumption of your vehicle. Oh, there are probably one or two other exceptions, but if you took the average stuff that a person has in their life, be they working class or even upper middle class, 30, 40 years ago, and compare it to that now, that places like this, but much more so my whole region where I used to live. If you actually compare the amount of stuff then and now, it has massively increased. But stuff, the problem is that what stuff should mean is the amount of man-made molecules that are annually, whatever, introduced into somebody's life. That's what stuff really means if you're thinking about it from an environmental point of view. And included in the stuff here, but back home, back in the previous region, people would make do with painting their house just every 10 years. That'll do. Things don't have to be pristine. Things don't have to be always looking absolutely great. Now, another kind of, it might seem obtuse, but stuff. You hardly saw any white cars 30, 40 years ago. Not at all common. Now, somewhere like here, just as back in the past region, you see many white cars. A white car shows dirt much more and of course requires cleaning more. Cleaning is stuff, molecules, man-made molecules. And what's actually happened? 30 years, so, I mean, it's a bit more, I suppose, but it's not actually more appropriate to talk about this in the southwest, surrounded by seas. It's actually perhaps even more important in a region like I used to come from. All sorts of molecules end up seeping into the watercourse. The rivers back there, they also seep into the environment in all sorts of ways. So the total, and if you use the word pollution, of course your silly surface for sewerage, one thinks, oh well, those fine surface for sewerage, you're doing something about that. No, they're not. They don't do anything. But more importantly, pollution is all the total sum total of the molecules that are unnecessarily in our lives that are man-made. That's what stuff is. And I'm sorry, that includes your crystals or your whole kind of paraphernalia. If you walk into the average house, if you walked into the average house of a spiritual person 40 years ago, you might see one little, one or two little ceremonial or things or items on the mantelpiece to indicate that they have an interest in the metaphysical, esoterical, whatever. Go into the same person's house now and you'll find the place crammed full of such items. Stuff. All the stuff. All stuff has some possible, some of that stuff sooner or later, even when the owner of all the metaphysical knickknacks, she's fucked everybody off and it all ends up in a skip. It all ends up, part of it ends up out in that great big thing, the full environment or Gaia or whatever you want to call it. So a massive increase in stuff. But stuff, as I said, such as this, everything's got to be painted every few years, repainted. Unless you're walking into a past region, holiday home that is repainted every couple of years. Somehow it's not good enough, and that's at every class level in Britain. If you were dealing with somebody in the working class 40 years ago and talking about this, what's wrong with the paint we got? Nope, everything's got to be repainted every few years. It's all stuff. Okay, if 100 places are repainted, 95 of them may be repainted in such a manner that there isn't much leaching into the environment of the molecules. But 5 of them will have a tin of paint gets spilt. The paintbrushes have to be cleaned. That ends up in the water system. Okay, the sewage system, some of which leaches into the wider environment. It's just all stuff. This explosion of stuff. But then, at the same time, now, quite rightly, I mean, we knew, there's 2 things we knew about clothing 20, 30, 40 years ago, actually. If you wear lots of light-coloured clothing, every bloody girlfriend I had and every mother that I came across in my teens knew the following. Takes more energy, more cost, more detergent, etc. Stuff. It's all stuff. More stuff, more energy, detergent, chemical. More frequently to clean light-coloured clothing. Everybody knew that. Try telling that. Try sharing that with somebody in Extinction Rebellion 2 or 3 years ago, 5 years ago. No. it's as if, oh no, it doesn't actually apply to me. And of course, part of the great big stuff is the amount of products people put on their body. Yeah, it's just like exploded. But keeping to simpler things, we also knew that man-made fabrics leached into this great big wider environment, much more so than natural. So, why are you, Mr., wearing man-made fabrics? Now, in the winter, I have about 5 or 6 shirts, all man-made fabrics, and I wear them until they're right at the limit of being threadbare. Good for me. But it's also about intelligent compromise. Nobody taught me. That's the problem, actually. Nobody talks about these things. It's like, yeah, I got a man-made fabric, but I only wear this This is my bed top in the winter. I wear this only in bed. Only. It's comfortable. And more importantly, if I wear a jumper in bed, that jumper gets damaged, gets disfigured. So wearing this in bed is much better for the long term, keeping your clothing at a kind of just about acceptable standard. But also, this will go, because it's only worn in bed, and in the morning when I wake up I leave it on to remain warm. I only have to wash it maybe once every 6 months, which is what it's all about. It's about, well, this kind of cheesy but quite good phrase, actually, low footprint. That's what low footprint is about: thinking through and developing habits which you keep to. Now, why is that connected with therapy? Because what most therapy is, what goes wrong with most people particularly into their 20s, 30s, it's about appetite. It's about ending up guzzling alcohol or guzzling one or other kind of compulsion. When things go wrong, animals do it. They become compulsive. Their appetites. That's what most therapy is about, deep down. That's what people want fixed when they go through a therapeutic, or even go into a spiritual therapeutic paradigm. And genuinely being thoughtful of the environment always is about appetites. It's about reducing your appetites. Reducing your appetite for, well, I can't be seen in a worn out shirt. It's so good for you. Gradually. It's a gradual thing. Like, I don't mind walking out and being seen in a shirt that has got 30 years ago I wouldn't be seen dead in a shirt with cuffs that have got worn like that. No, it's just gradually accepting. It's about compromise. Yeah, point being, so where woolen, man-made, natural fibres going out because they are more likely to get dirty, or during the day they're going to get dirty if you spill some food accidentally, blah, 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 blah. It's just about a bit of thoughtfulness, a bit of a pretty straightforward, common sense, practical shift in your habits. I never, ever hear any of the green preachers ever talking about. In fact, unfortunately, particularly the last 10 years, they almost seem to be the opposite, in that it's, if they do talk about habits to reduce your footprint, it's almost like do as I say, not as I do. There's Caroline Lucas, who every other day clearly is at the hairdresser's getting chemicals put on her hair. One despairs. We all know that the, what were the words, grungy kind of, oh, I can't remember what the words were 20 years ago, the kind of grungy, crusty, there you go. The word of derision for the green, thoughtful person was crusty. So, crusties, and then it became sort of the bunny hugger, tree huggers, whatever. Those who use far less of the planet's resources were derided. Doesn't make them worse people in any way. In fact, leaves time free. If you're at the hairdresser far less often, if you're not actually caring about waxing your legs, or as a bloke whether or not you've got the right amount of deodorant chemical put on, it's like it frees up time and energy and money. But you never hear, you never hear people, and I want to go onto a Facebook of a green woman person and here I wanted to, I don't care anymore, they all lost it. I wanted to hear straightforward things said about, remember everybody, try and buy less light coloured clothing, which was a policy I adopted 30 years ago. There we go. Nope. Worst video ever made. But the point being, and I must make another audio, not in a virtue signalling way. There's a kind of therapeutic aspect to you individually, with your own conscience, knowing you're keeping to the healthy, for the environment, habits. And when you fail, because none of us are perfect, I'm not perfect, when you fail and you're mulling, my lack of keeping up my habits, my inability to have thought through the common sense, better environmental aspect of that behaviour is my fault. Nobody else's, mine. That's so good for you. There we go.